season. New show, new folks, new reasons. New level, so you know we going up. Start with the old, so you know we cleaning. We gleaning, brand new story. Got a podcast, come talk with Tori. Got you fiending, new stories. New podcast, come and talk with Tori.
Welcome back to Tori Talks. I have a very special guest with me today, Pastor Jonathan Everett. Y'all, he's one of my favorites, not just in New Orleans, but nationwide.
It's
Um,
on your side.
he the top five. Pastor Everett, he's the pastor of Rock of Ages Baptist Church in New Orleans, but I started following him during COVID, and one of my family members sent me one of his lives, and I've been watching ever since. And I even, I'm not an official member of Rock of Ages, but I visit from time to time. I'm definitely an Instagram member of Rock
Uh,
of Ages. But thank you for joining me today. How are you?
Oh, I'm fantastic. Thank you so very much for extending the invitation. And man, that was a lot you say in the fight in the Fave Five. That's a big. I know there's a conglomerate of people that you could put in Fave Five. So I'm honored and humbled to be in that Fave Five and appreciate just having this conversation. And I think most importantly, deliverance and all the rest of those things come through dialogue. If we talk more about substantive things, then we can find ourselves, getting the right substance out of our conversation. So thank you again.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Thank you. I know I took some questions, so we're gonna get right on to it
Go,
because
let's
this is
go.
something that I believe every believer struggles with in terms of
Hmm.
faith and, how much faith should we have? How little faith should we have? How does that really work with our everyday lives when, we have faith, but we're looking at the what's really in front of us. And so, like we really don't know how it's going to work out, but we have faith.
Yeah,
So I just
yeah.
want to talk about faith and things like that with you. That's good.
Listen, I'm ready for it. This my speed. You know how they say in New Orleans, it's the hand I fan with. So I'm ready for this. Come on.
So like I said before, you're a pastor, right? But
Yep.
I want you to tell us just a little background on how you became a pastor or minister or a follower, a believer. Like how did that, were you raised as a believer or how did that story come about?
To be honest with you, phew, that question really kind of pushed me back a little bit. Just thinking about how I came up. I'm the seventh child of 12 kids. We grew up in the Fisher Projects. I'm a first generational preacher, first generational pastor of our family. We have a very large family, and you would think that our family being so large was rooted in spirituality or Christianity or church, but we wasn't. We come from the Mississippi area, and coming up, we only had so many options in the projects. It was you play basketball or football. We rarely heard about baseball. We definitely didn't hear about no soccer. We never heard about we can be actors or nothing like that. The only other career choice that we saw in the project was the insurance man that came picked up the insurance every month, right? So we didn't have too many options. So I played basketball. I played Project League. We used to call it Project League. Go to the desired project and play. There was one particular time that I hurt my arm. I broke it actually, running after my little brother, and during that time I couldn't play basketball or nothing like that. The Lord gave me a vision in my dreams. So let me see if I can clarify this too, since we're on this subject about preachers and pastoring. In today's society, I just had this conversation with somebody at the gym, the difference between being called and preaching being a career. And
Mm-hmm.
so we are finding more and more in this society that people are taking preaching and pastoring as a career. That's why it's so indoctrinated with corporate issues and corporate policies and corporate operation versus a call from God. There was a time we had older preachers who tell you things like, tell me how you was called by God. When was the last time somebody asked, how would you call? Not when you started, not how good you preached, not what church you pastored, but when you were called by God. They were serious about that. They'll say, describe the dream to me. I had a dream I was preaching in our church, and there was a person who were unable to walk, and they was in a wheelchair, and the dream was I was preaching and nobody was praising God but that person in the wheelchair. And my statement was, if a person in a wheelchair can praise God, why all of you all with your health and strength can't praise God? That was my dream. I took that dream, I brought it to my pastor, and my pastor said, well, we're going to see what the Lord said. Let me pray to God. That was the process back then.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and I hate to keep going back to this, now people, they feel as though they call to preach. They don't have no checks and boundaries. They have nobody they go to solidify or affirm that calling before they just launch out there, start churches, and get on Instagram and stuff, say they called. But during that, in that process, it really kept me to this day, because they was trying to make sure, was I sure about this at a young age? I was 12 years old at the time, 13 years old at the time.
Okay.
And so I had a pretty good life ahead of me. I was playing basketball. I was pretty good at basketball. I had, all of the friends in the world. Everybody knew me. Everybody knew my family. So it wasn't something I just did because I was bored, or it wasn't something I did because I needed notoriety. It wasn't something I did because I needed friends. No, I had the
Mm-hmm.
juice. I used to run around the project. I had the juice. We was them guys, right? But the Lord, when the Lord pulled you out of it, and it was an embarrassing thing, because all my friends looking at me saying, "You're a preacher. We don't even go to church." I got saved at the high rise eating cooked punch, fruit punch, and cookies. So it was like, we don't go to no church, man. We pass up the church all the time. We used to play basketball around the church, jump the church fence. So it was like abnormal to the people in the project, but I stuck to my guns, and I knew what God showed me in a vision. And right now, to this day, all of my friends, all of those guys who went to the NFL, all of my friends who went to the NBA, all of my friends who played overseas, they right now to this day call me probably every week saying, "Man, I'm so glad you stuck to your guns, because you somebody out of the whole clique that keep all of us balanced." So that's how my life before preaching became about, and before pastoring.
That's beautiful. Because it's it's beautiful to know, like, even though you went a different route or different path than what people in your neighborhood would have thought that you could have or should have gone, like, you honed in on your spirit, your faith in God, and you listened to him, and you didn't veer off from that. So that's good. And at a young age too,
Yeah,
I'm sure that was
it,
a
it
bit
was it
scary
was
at that
very
age.
it was a test. It was a huge test. I mean, a big test, because everything was popping at that time. Well, in my mind, everything was
Right.
popping. The talent shows, the sock hops. Going through middle school and high school ain't no joke when you talk about you preaching. You know what I mean? It's like,
Right.
do I tell my friends I'm a preacher? Do I pray for them at school? Like all that type of stuff. But
Right.
it's an identity crisis. I mean, I was going through an identity, not an identity crisis. I was going through define my identity at that time.
Right.
So
But you were trying to define your identity when God had already, identified you. He called you out. He already knew, what you were going to do, what you were made for. So, yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Thank you. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. So you talked about, how you came to preaching, or came to God rather. Um, at the age of 12, 13-ish, would you say, like, that's when you began preaching, or is that just when you started following God more or less?
Well, December the 19th, 1996 is the very day that I preached my first sermon on love. And I can remember to this day, Numbers chapter number 12, where the Bible talks about Miriam and Aaron told Moses he's not the only one that God speak to, and God caused leprosy to come on their lives. And the Bible also said that Moses felt compassion towards his brother and his sister, that he prayed to God and said, God, can you remove this leprosy from them, despite of what they said about me and my wife? It was an Ethiopian woman that he married. And the
Mm-hmm.
Bible told Moses, you tell them to meet me outside the camp and let me talk to them face to face. it was a sermon about love, that you look past people flaws and look past blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And I was 12 years old preaching. I mean, church was jam packed, and that's when I started preaching. I followed God about a year or two right before that. But my family always been in and out of church. It was a tradition. You go to church on Easter, right, where you wear your little
See you
stripy
me.
shoes and you still suck a little outfit. You know what I mean? Was it stride rides? Well, I don't know what kind of shoes they was. I don't know what kind of shoes. Little baby shoe, blue and white shoe. But and you wear your seersucker little outfit, and everybody sit on the pew and be like, "Oh, he look cute, little baby." They just say that all the time. So we was in and out of church. I didn't come into the realization of until I was 12, 13 years of age. And so when I started preaching, even after that, I was still trying to find that niche, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like find
Mhm.
out where I fit, because there's no area for those group. It's either you're athletic, you're smart, like there's no group for it. So,
Mhm.
yep, I started preaching in 96. Yep.
Okay, so
Man,
you
that's a long
said
time.
like
But yep.
your family were what we call like CME members, Christmas, Mother's Day, Easter, but you
Yeah.
honed in
Yeah.
on Easter.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so when you got that call, um, how did that work with your family life? Like your parents,
The
your
the crazy
siblings?
part is this. It was two prong. Um, it was two prong, three prong. Number one, I told my mother, and it was a morning before I'm getting ready to go to school. I go in there and sit on my mother's steps to her bed, and I say, "Ma, I just feel God called me. I think He called me." I described the dream to her. My mother looked at me and said, "Boy, get ready for school," you know. But it was like she didn't want to acknowledge that she felt it or knew or understood it. But
Uh-huh.
behind my back, she went told my pastor. Right. That's
Uh-huh.
one prong. The second prong is that me and my brothers and my sisters, my younger brother and sisters, we used to play like we was having church, clowning. Really, it was like comical. It was fun, something for us to do. We had a keyboard from the thrift store, and we used to play that. And my brother used to play like he's shouting, and now we not spiritual. It was just something that we did. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like some kids be like serious, serious. We weren't serious at all. We were just clowning the people because we ain't had nothing else to talk about. Number three is I believe is one of the most important one. I didn't meet my father till I was 14. So my father wasn't in my life until I was 14 years old. And the very first day that I met him, he looks at me and he said, "Your mama told me you wanted to be you trying to be a little preacher, right?" And when I explained to him what it was, he said, "I can't stop anything that God is doing in your life." And then he said something that was pivotal. He said, "Maybe I'm not saying my behaviors is something to be rewarded, but what if God kept me out of your life so you can find this, so you can find God?" He said, "Maybe I would have stirred you in the wrong way." And I didn't
Mhm.
understand it until now. And he said, "Don't excuse my behaviors." He said, "Don't do that." He said, "But I'm just talking now, looking back over it." He said, "Maybe God kept me out of the picture because I can have you on a different route or a different road." And that was the third, kind of family. Outside of that, the rest of my family just kind of embraced it once they heard me preach. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So, you know, I get cousins. My cousins growing up, they'll clown me because we used to be flexing and all that back then, and in talent shows and stuff like that. So it wasn't. I mean, family wasn't too bad.
Yeah, okay. Okay. I know that wasn't one of the questions, but that just came up, as you were speaking.
Nah, it's shoot,
Yeah.
shoot
So,
for it.
was there ever like any moment, whether it was when you were younger or um as you got older or even as you became a pastor, was there any moment where you was like, you know what, Lord, this ain't it? Like, I don't know. Like, you gotta have something else for your boy, because this not it.
Absolutely. The minute that he told me I'm gonna pastor, like, nah, you tripping. I'm good on that.
I could pray,
I
but
can tell
I'm not.
I can take another 5 hours telling you how many times I've been in circumstances where I told the Lord, and uh, I condense all of them and make it just briefly. Once again, when He first wanted me to start pastoring. So in 2005, I moved to the state of Maryland,
Okay.
and I went out there, and the Lord really blessed me to start. And I try to tell a story to all of my members, right? So when I got to Maryland, I started doing what they call full-time ministry. So I was working at the church from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. every single day, and I was making $193,000 a year, right? And so
Mhm.
at that time, I moved from New Orleans to Maryland, making that kind of money. You couldn't tell me nothing at that time, right? You couldn't tell me nothing. I mean, there was no limit to what it is that God allowed me to experience. Prince George County is or if the richest black county in the state of I'm gonna say in the country, where they have so much convenience and everything is at your leisure. And so I experienced like what they call the luxuries of life, right? I mean, to a high dimension. And so there was a time, and let me speed this up, that I was in worship and I was assistant pastor. So I operated all of the details of all three of the services. I lift my hands. I never forget, I had this Movado watch on that Dr. Mike Freeman had sold into my life. I mean, it was bad. I mean, it was bad. I mean, the price on it was a Social Security number. You know what I'm saying? It was bad, bad. And I lift my hands in worship, and God told me, this is one moment. This is one moment. The Lord said, I want you to sow that watch into somebody's life. I had just met that man like 2 weeks prior to this moment, and he said, I want you to sow that watch in his life. I'm like, man, shoot, man, I just got this watch, right? And then number two, he said, I want you to move back to New Orleans. I said, you definitely ain't talking to me. you, you, you most certainly ain't talking to me. You hear what I'm saying? I was like, nah, Lord. I hope you talk to somebody. Maybe I'm hearing things. Maybe I took the wrong suitor last night. Something wrong, right? I was just in my head. So I was like, all right, cool. You can have the watch, you can have the clothes, you can have the cars, you can have the houses. I had 3 houses at the time. You can have whatever you want, but I am not moving back to New Orleans. And
Mhm.
then God made some things tight for me. And he forced me out of that environment to get me to New Orleans. 2009, I got to New Orleans. I stayed out of work because nobody would hire me, but I had a pretty nice saving at the time where I
Mhm.
could just every day wake up, go to the gym, exercise, didn't have to worry about bills or money. You get what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
so after that year was up, I wound up preaching at Rock of Ages that first morning, 10 years ago, or 11 years ago, I preached at Rock of Ages, and they had 3 people in that church. And the deacon come up to me after I finished preaching and say, "We praying for a pastor." I said, "Well, y'all better keep on praying." Because I ain't see. That's another moment. That's another moment. I was like, nah, Lord, I don't know. You didn't take me from way up here, traveling the country, traveling around the world from Haiti to Port-au-Prince and all these different places to come here. I didn't understand it. And I was telling the Lord, just send me back to Maryland. I was doing pretty good up there. And so that was my moment. That was my main moments where I told the Lord, nah, this ain't it. you know. And I heard the Lord very clearly as I walked away from that deacon, and the Lord said, no, this is it. So roll your sleeves up and start handling your business as it relates to doing what God has called you to do. So
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up. Because I want to say congratulations prematurely, but coming up on 10 years. So I know. Congratulations. And I know
thank you
the Rock
so very
of
much.
Baptist Church. I mean, I already know. I'm gonna have to watch by internet because I'm gonna be in town for that service. But yes, I already know it's gonna be a blessing. I already know. Yeah.
Yeah, they some amazing people. And let me say this. I believe, and I know every pastor say they pastor the greatest churches. I just want to say this. I pastor some great people, right?
Mhm.
I'm not a big building person. Anybody will tell you I'm not the pastor who say I'm gonna build a big building. I'm not that type of pastor. I'm the pastor that says, man, if I can just help build people, right? I just think the people groups, if we just like really focus on building people, I think some of the most amazing people come to that church. I mean, just genuine. And one of the prayers I've always prayed, and I still pray to this day, Lord, just in spite of all of the bad people I encounter, just show me the good people. I
Mhm.
believe in my heart there's still good people on this earth. I do
Yeah.
not believe everybody bad. And the paranoia after you experience certain pains of your past and stuff like that, kind of cause you to get to this place where you kind of, isolate yourself. But I really believe now I've been hurt, man. I'm serious. Listen, if we get into that's a whole nother
That's a
podcast,
whole
right?
nother
I've
one.
I've had and still have some remnants of pains through circumstances or situations that, man, it will really put you in the igloo or in a corner and say, I don't want to come outside no more. But
Mhm.
I still believe that I refuel, I reconnect, and I am revived by being around great people. And Rock of Ages have some amazing people. That 90% of members at Rock of Ages, I'm their first pastor. Let that
Wow.
sink in. So, when people be saying like, Pastor Everett, there's other people coming from other churches. No, that's not true. I do my analytics. Everybody that come to that church, I'm doing analytics to determine, are you coming from another church or I'm your first pastor? 50% of those individuals who are part of our ministry are converts from Catholicism.
Wow.
You get what I'm saying? So let's start talking percentage. And the
Yeah.
vast majority of my members are young people. They just
Yeah.
coming back to the Lord, or they coming to the Lord for the first time. These are not veterans. These are not Christian vets where they have to come and say, man, I done been to 5 different churches. No, these people been to a church or no church at all. So when I put a video out there and say, I don't want nobody else members, I can say that because I'm not taking nobody else members. You get what I'm saying? Like, I'm saying
Yeah.
I want every unsaved person in the city of New Orleans. And I can say that boldly because that's our objective. I want
Yeah.
unsaved people. And so, because I believe there's still some good in everybody. But don't let me go ahead on about my business because I'm about to get started. But go ahead.
But no, like I've noticed that, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, because like you said, you did the analytics, but I think that your presence on the internet, I mean, I know of you from Instagram, but I think your presence on the internet, it appeals to the younger generation and younger
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
lost because there's so much foolishness
Yeah.
on the internet, and so they can, they see something different, and so that's what piques their interest first. They see something different, and so once they start
Yeah.
watching you repetitively, it's like, oh, now I can't get away.
It's not just new, it's real. It's raw.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
I tell people all the time, like when I get up in the morning, if my t-shirt is wrinkled, if my hair is not cut, I don't care, right? I get up there and I get in front of them because I want them to believe or to dismissify this image of what a preacher should look like or what he should sound like. I don't have a script in front of me. I talk like we having a conversation because in order to appeal to this generation, we don't want fake no more. I don't want it.
Mm.
I'm a pastor and I hate it. I hate people to manipulate. I hate people to play with my feelings. And please, Lord, don't play with my money. You get what I'm saying? Like, I hate stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I appeal to them out of the sincerity and transparency. When you have last month, we had at the end of a prayer call, listen to this, at the end of a prayer call, I said, I feel God is leading me to open the doors of the church so people can be saved. We had 96 people got saved that day. 96 people. I was shocked to believe that out of all of the churches we have in the city, that people are still unsaved.
90.
96 people in one day got saved.
Glory to God.
You
That's
get what I'm
amazing.
saying? Like,
Yes.
so it's not just the aesthetics or the appeal. It's the come here, get yourself together, man, and let's live life what like it's supposed to or intended by God. And so that's my aim. You know what I mean? Like that church stuff, I can't sing. I'm not a singing pastor. I don't play. Listen, man, listen. You come to my church, they already know something wrong up here, right? But I tell them straight up, man, we grown. Ain't no rehearsing, playing games, entertainment. No, you grown, right? We grown people. Let's learn this word and let's do what God has called us to do. And I think That's what this generation looking for. They tired all of the antics and the people faking like Christians
Mhm.
and all that singing and stuff. Like, man, give me the word, you know,
Yeah,
all that. But then
keep
that's
it
my all
God.
right. I quit. I quit.
No, no. And so I've already said this, but I'm gonna thank you again for that morning prayer call. Because now I ain't gonna lie to you now. I haven't been on when I'm away from home, but when I'm at home, when I'm at
Yeah,
home, I am on it every morning because my time changed. I'm all over the place.
yeah,
But when I'm at home, every morning, and really for those 2 years of COVID, every
yeah,
morning, and I would send it to people, and some people respond, some don't, and that's fine. I'm not looking for a response. I want you to just
yeah,
get get what God has for you. I don't need a thank
yeah,
you. I don't need none of that. But I just want to thank you so much for being obedient to God with the daily prayer call and for your consistency, because
yeah.
even after COVID, I know some pastors or some ministers who they were doing it during COVID because church wasn't open. But now that church is open, they no longer do it. So I just want to thank you for your consistency as well because this, like you said, is they still have lost people. So
You know, all right. I don't mean to bring this up, but no, I was the first person to do a prayer call in the country. I can say that boldly, and I put this out there again on the video. There were no other pastors around the country. Jamal Bryant's, your Bishop Walter Walker's, Bishop Blake, and all these people, all these are good friends of mine. None
hmm
of them was doing prayer lines. I was doing prayer lines when we had free conference call. That was 10 years ago. When
yeah.
free conference call initially started, I did a prayer call, and let me tell you how I started. I started doing the Easter Passion Week, right?
Okay.
I had at 12 noon, my members know this who've been with me for 10 years. At 12 noon, we had a conference call with 300 to 400 people on there, and I had friends from around the country calling in on the call to preach about Passion Week because I didn't do the seven sayings. So I did it
Okay.
throughout the week, right? When I had
hmm
400 people on that call, I was like, at the end of that week, I was like, God, Lee, that's a lot of people. What I'm gonna do with these people, right? So I take
Uh-huh.
it from that noon and I put it at 7 a.m. in the morning on the conference call. At
Okay.
that time, I was pastoring two churches. I'm bringing my son to school. I started doing the conference call while I'm driving him to school. And I
Uh-huh.
thought about it and I said, wait one second, man. I'm taking time away from my son. This is the only time I see him out today. So I stopped the prayer call. Okay. I picked it back up once we made some more arrangements, and I started doing prayer on Facebook, the conference call, and Periscope. This before
Oh,
Periscope
yeah.
even
I
came out.
remember that.
I was the first one. I'm telling you, I'm the first one that did all this, right? And then when I come out off of Periscope, Facebook, and the conference call, I went through some turbulence in my life. I shut that down. When the pandemic happened, I said I got to go back to what I already know, right?
Yes.
And I boom shot right back to Facebook, YouTube, and boom started doing Instagram. I've been doing
Yes.
it for 9 years.
You're right. 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 Wow.
You get what I'm
I
saying?
just
So people are like, man, how you got that sauce? I've been doing it for 9 years.
look now. I'm mad at the person who sent it to me. Why she ain't been sent it to me?
I've been doing it for 9 years. So when people be like, man, how you can do it? Because it's a part of who I am. It's
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I have friends who have tried to do it and they can't keep up with it because they like, man, I don't know how you do that every single morning, man. I can't do it every morning. I'm like, man, I've been doing it for 9 years.
Yeah. You know, I'm
Strong.
gonna I'm gonna get back to some of the questions that I had. But what you just said, I've been doing it for 9 years. That kind of not kind of it spoke to me just now because I've been podcasting for about a year and a half now, maybe 2 years. I think I hit 2 year mark. But um,
Congratulations.
yeah, but now like I have to, or I tell myself rather, oh, I have to be in the mood to record. No, just do it. Cause it. I know. Don't judge. You can't judge.
No, I'm not judging. I'm about to drop something on you. Let me tell you, if you knew how many times that it took, I would roll out the bed at 6:55 to get on live at 7. If you just knew how many times I had to sit in this chair and talk myself up just to talk people through, boy, that's good right there. That's real
Yeah.
good right there.
Yeah.
Had to talk, had to talk myself up just to talk people through. If you know how much stuff that I had to go through, or there are times where I go on vacation and I say, you know what, but I can't lead the people like that. So I got to leave them something. I got to go pre-record for a whole week. I got to shut myself down in my schedule for a whole day to pre-record for people for a whole week. It's necessary when it's who you are and when you are called to it. And here's the big bomb. How many times I said, man, okay, January, I'm gonna stop.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and then leading to January, I get all kind of people. I almost committed suicide, but I got on the prayer line. Or I moved from this state to this state, and that prayer line guided me. Or I hear from different lawyers and doctors and judges and politicians saying, "Man, thank you this morning for the word." Or our mayor, or several other people say, "Pastor, thank you. Keep on going because it's helping us in the morning." When I hear stuff like that, I feel like I can't stop. God
Okay.
never told me to stop. It'll be my own decision. You know what I mean? He haven't shut it down yet, but I can't begin to tell you how I done got on here sick. I done got on here depressed. I done got on here with anxiety, but I still do it because there's so many people depending on that smile or 7 a.m. for somebody to tell them that it's gonna be okay.
Yeah. You're right. Thank you. Thank you. I needed, I needed something like that for me. But
Yeah.
let's go back to what we came to discuss cuz I could talk, you could talk, we both could talk. But let's go back to faith and vision, right? Um, how do those two coincide, or how can we live with both faith and vision as a believer and
All
even
right.
as a non-believer or a new believer?
Okay, so let me see if I can give you the shortest version because that's a very complex question. And both of those particular subject matters are multi-layered, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's very complex. So you talk about faith, faith has a lot of complexities with morals, amorals, immorals. Vision have a lot of complexities because I think a lot of people, whenever we talk about vision, here it is, and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago on the prayer line, we think vision is God lighting the entire path before we start taking steps. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes God doesn't light the entire path. He give you envisions, give you enough light just for the next step, right?
Mm-hmm.
Faith, on the other hand, is trusting God that He will make the best decisions for me no matter what goes on, whether it's good, bad, whether I have to go through whatever I go through. I anchor my belief in a higher power than I, believing that He have my best interests at heart. How both of those particular perspectives coexist is to be able to first be clear on the vision.
Yes.
Having vision, Helen Keller said, there's nothing what's worse than a person with no sight is a person who has sight but no vision. Okay, it is a person who says, and let me say this: there's another bad philosophy that a lot of people, Christians, do oftentimes. They are clear about life, but they're not clear about their life. Totally two different things. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so when we start talking about vision, you got to be very clear on what it is that God has called you to do, not what He called the world how to operate. And there's a lot of people can tell you how everything operate except for them.
Except for them.
They can tell you how the government system, they can tell you how the family structure should be, they can tell you how church should be ran, they can tell you about business, the entrepreneur, but they cannot tell you about their vision. Okay, vision is vitally important, but you got to know your vision to have faith for it.
Right.
Faith need a target. One of the studies that I really want to do with Christians is to know the difference and have a definitive perspective between faith and a wish. For there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people that's wishing something happened. They just wake up every morning and just wish something happened. Well, let me see if I can do this. If faith have a target, and what I'm believing God for, the Bible said, according to your faith be it unto you. Let me give you an example. If I believe God, He's going to give me a job at Walgreens, and there's a job that comes along from the French market, my faith ain't fulfilled.
Yeah.
My faith ain't fulfilled. I believe God for Walgreens, and I'm not stopping until I get the Walgreens. I'm not
Yeah.
accepting nothing less than Walgreens. I'm not pivoting. I'm not taking a layover at the French market. I believe him for Walgreens. You
Yeah.
get what I'm saying? So a
Yeah.
lot of people just wish soon as something come, and you know how many, boy, this feels so good to my spirit. You know how many people are in a distraction that they had faith for something else, but they just accepted whatever came. Oh God. Oh, I gotta stop. Yeah, they had faith for something else, but they just accepted anything that came to pass, anything that Satan threw their way, any opportunity. I call that opportunistic people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? When I got a faith on something, I'm believing, I'm standing on that faith. Faith needs a target. When a person have a wish, they just wish something good happened. Good can
Something
be
good.
anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just because it's good doesn't mean it's God.
So, like,
I gotta stop.
what would you, as a pastor, tell your congregation or other believers, like how to wait on the Lord? I mean, other than, just plainly wait on the Lord, but like how would you tell them to wait on God for what they have faith in?
So waiting, a lot of times people waiting on certain things and they think that waiting is to stop. I've never seen a farmer wait on his harvest by
Mm-hmm.
stop planting. Once he finish planting that field, he go plant another field, then he go plant another field, then he go back to that field and water it, then he go back to another field. He is working while he's waiting.
Yes.
Now this is good, man. Here's the thing. When we wait, we don't work on the necessary things that we need to work on, which is, don't miss this,
Mm-hmm.
ourselves.
Yes.
The waiting period is never for us to worry about what's coming. The waiting period is for you to get yourself together so you
Yes.
can handle what's on its way.
Yes.
God is never interested in if you can handle it. God is always interested if you are prepared for it. And we think getting to it fast is God. No, getting to it prepared is God. Man, this is
Yes.
so good. I got to stop. All right. So the waiting period is working. So the question should be, what should I be working on while I wait? Okay.
Yeah.
Should I be working on myself, my patience, my loyalty, my integrity, my morals? Here it is. Should I be undoing some things, untying myself from certain things? Should I be erasing some stuff out of my life? See, if you just waiting and not working, then when what God brings to pass gonna be fresh, up to date, and you will be out of date.
Yes.
I hope that makes sense, right?
So
Because you have a frame that have not been updated.
you about to have me
You're
crying.
not prepared for what's fresh.
Right.
And he can't pour new wine, come on, into what? Old wine skin.
Yeah.
I gotta work while I wait. Waiting is not sitting around just twiddling my thumbs. Waiting is working on me. So
Yeah.
oftentimes Christians, don't miss this, we forsake the season of preparation for the season of pleasure. So we think waiting is enjoying ourselves. No, when you waiting, you should be preparing yourself. So that season you're supposed to prepare yourself, you was having fun. You was
Mm-mm.
dropping it like it's hot. I mean, you was taking vacations. And when God really sent what was meant for you, you don't have the money to cover the closing costs. You don't have the money to get what you need. You don't have the patience to deal with the people that comes with it. Because every time you get what you do want, you also gotta be prepared for what you don't want. I gotta quit. I gotta quit. I always feel myself gotta stop before I keep going. Before I keep going. Before I keep going.
My God.
Yeah, that's true.
I surrender.
That's true. That's true. It's a work in progress. If I'm not working on something while I'm waiting, then I'm waiting in vain.
In vain.
Because I don't never question if God is going to deliver. No, I don't worry about none of that. I don't listen. I don't worry about a seed I sow. That's not a seed I have sown that I'm sitting around saying, I wonder if I'm gonna get that back. That's not a time a prayer I prayed. Listen to me. That's not a prayer I prayed that I wonder if he heard me. The Bible says when you pray, God, this feel good. You have to believe your father hears you. That's faith right there.
Yes.
That's not a prayer I prayed that I after I finish praying, I'll be like, you know what? I wonder if God heard me. No, I
Mhm.
know he heard me.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
My job is not to worry about if he's going to come through. Here's a word, or if he heard me. My job is to be ready when he opened that window. And there are so many people. This is so good. The greatest distraction is not the obstacle. The greatest distraction is the opportunity. God
Mhm.
didn't open that window and you don't know what to do with it now. Yeah, he didn't open that window. You because now the blessings feel like burdens. He didn't open that window on you and you can't balance it all. Now it's
Mhm.
too much. Now you complain about you don't get rest. Now you complain about you don't have the team. Now you complain about that you don't have the mindset. You don't have the strategy. You don't have the structure. Your software not updated. Now you complain about stuff you should have been working on before he opened that window. Because when he opened that window, listen to what he said. He said, I will pour you out a blessing. Here it is, that you will not have room to receive it, which means that the blessing is going to bust open your capacity or the systems that you have in place. Golly. I believe he opened that window. Yeah, come on.
You preaching, and it's not even Sunday.
It's not said at all.
Mm.
Whew. I feel good now. I feel better.
Oh my God.
That was good.
I'm gonna look. I'm gonna
That
leave
was good.
well enough alone. I'm gonna leave it right there. But
Uh-huh.
what are three qualities that you think
Mhm.
every believer of God should have or should show to the world, should exude?
Number one is integrity. Of course, we always talk about integrity, and I think it's vitally important. The other thing is humility, right? I think that is vitally important that we show the world. The Bible said the greatest among you is the servant of us all. And last but not least is generosity, which is a great value. Those three values are the core values of every believer. The integrity, your word got to mean something to somebody. Your humility, that if you are too big to follow, then you're too little to lead. Okay. And number three, generosity. Jesus talks about money and planting seeds more than he talk about any other subject. 11 out of the 39 parables, Jesus talks about money, right? He's talking
Yeah.
about how we handle what we do with it and how generous we are with it. Okay. So those are the three values, core values that I believe that really that really governs all of our conversations about Christianity.
Mm-hmm. Where can the people find you?
You can find me in the club, pocket put. Nah, I just play. I just play. You can find. You can find. I felt 50 Cent came out. Instagram, Pass Everett, Paseverett. Facebook, Jonathan Everett. YouTube, JEMinistries. Or you can Rock of Ages on Sunday morning at 9:15 a.m. and Wednesday night at 7 p.m. We're currently at 35 4000 Cadillac Street on Sunday morning, and on Wednesdays we're at 1921 North Tonti Street. So, that's where we at.
Y'all, d- stop watching him on the internet. Go in a church house. Go catch him in a church house. Stop watching him on the internet.
Oh, it's a whole different experience when you get in there. That's
Yes,
different. That's
yes.
different. Yeah,
Even a
it's
Wednesday night Bible
different.
study. It's like I've never seen a Wednesday night Bible study like your Wednesday night Bible study. It's
Wow. They be in there. I
yes,
mean, if no music, no praise team, no musicians, none of that, just straight word. And
yes,
and that's what we govern our church by. We govern our church by learning that word.
yeah. Is there anything else that you want to that you just have to tell the people before I let you go?
Man, in this life, I really want to say this. Two things. Life is really about pain management, and life is how you handle pain. And number two, how you deal with what you do not see coming. And I wish if you can take nothing from this podcast, nothing from this interview, learn how to manage that pain. That's once you get out of your feelings, then you can really walk in faith. And life is how you deal with what you did not see coming. Stuff gonna come that's gonna surprise you. It's gonna shock you. But if you can handle it, if you can manage it, you'll make it through. You're gonna be okay. You'll be all right.
Well, thank you again. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna watch this
Oh, absolutely,
over and over
absolutely.
and over.
Thank you again for the conversation and the opportunity, and I pray much success on Tori Talk. And 2 years, keep on going.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining Tori Talks today. I hope and pray that you thoroughly enjoyed the conversation with Pastor Jonathan Everett of Rock of Ages Baptist Church in New Orleans, Louisiana. And I pray that you continue to listen to Tori Talks and get all that you need and all that God has for you while listening to the podcast. See y'all next week.